A government strike seems inevitable in Argentina. Plus, Pope Francis visits crime-ridden Michoacan in Mexico. Thanks for joining us for teleSur's English. This is From the South, and I'm Coddy Weddle. To begin today, over the past month and a half, the government of Argentina has opened negotiations with the largest worker unions in the country, which are demanding for an increase in wages. However, the government has refused to meet their demands, and one of the key unions is the Education Workers Union. Now, despite offering a new deal in which the government came closer to the workers' demands, the union has stood by their promise of joining other state workers in a strike set for the 24th of February. Heavy rains and storms have killed 4 people in the northern province of Córdoba in Argentina. The city continues to be flooded, and experts are warning that this year the El Niño phenomenon could cause massive floods in 6 different provinces of the country. Pope Francis continues his tour in Mexico after visiting the southern state of Chiapas, where he asked the indigenous population for forgiveness over the treatment they received from the church. The Pope is now in the north of the country. He's in the state of Michoacan, where he was greeted by tens of thousands there. Now, the Pope urged local priests to not let fear stop them from giving Mass. Now, in the past decade, around 40 priests have been killed in the state, and most wear bulletproof vests while delivering Mass. The former Chilean guerrilla group Movement of the Revolutionary Left, which resisted the Pinochet dictatorship, begins the process to become a formal political party. Now, the group will now have to collect signatures to become officially registered as a party, a process that they hope to conclude by August. Leaders and members of the former guerrilla believe that there is not political alternative in the current set of coalitions and parties participating in the next elections, and the aim at filling that void. In Colombia, a top police official there in the national force is under investigation for suspected involvement in a male prostitution ring. Rodolfo Palomino is under official investigation by the Attorney General's office. Now, Palomino has so far refused to step down. The prosecutor is seeking to charge him with promoting prostitution, human trafficking, and illicit enrichment. Cuba and the U.S. have signed a historic aviation pact to restore airline services between the two countries. Now it ends a 50-year ban which initiated during the Cold War. Cuban authorities expect an influx of U.S. tourists, as many are already visiting the island since bilateral talks began last year. Saudi Arabia, Russia, Qatar, and Venezuela, they've all agreed to freeze oil output at January levels. Now, the joint proposal is aimed at increasing oil prices and is conditioned on other major producers' approval. As the Syrian civil war continues, the United Nations is urging all warring parties to allow humanitarian aid into their areas. The UN Special Envoy is in Damascus meeting with the government and other actors to allow supplies that are urgently needed. Thousands of soldiers from 20 countries have started to arrive in Saudi Arabia ahead of a joint military exercise there. The Northern Thunder operation will last 18 days, and it will be formed by up to 350,000 troops from Arab and Islamic countries. Now, this exercise comes as fears of a Saudi invasion of Syria have increased over the past week. Former Egyptian UN Secretary General Boutros Ghali has died at the age of 93. He was the first African UN head, and his term was marked by war in the former Yugoslavia, famine and genocide in Africa, and confrontation with the United States. The Israeli Supreme Court has started to examine the transfer of the Palestinian journalist on hunger strike, Mohammed Al-Qiq, to a Palestinian hospital, as he had demanded. Now, doctors say Al-Qiq could die really in any moment. And that Palestinian journalist on hunger strike in the Israeli jail is desperate to hear his son's voice. His health continues to deteriorate, and many are concerned he might not survive. With more, we turn to our correspondent in that region, Noor Harrison.
The health of the imprisoned Palestinian journalist Mohammed Al-Qiq further worsened Monday after his 84th day on hunger strike. His lawyer said that Al-Qiq is suffering sharp pain in his chest, numbness in his face, and has started shouting hysterically, "Let me hear my son's voice, please God." A recent video of the prisoner emerged on social media Monday. The video showed Al-Qiq tied to bed. He was suffocating, screaming, and praying for God's help to give him strength. He also clearly suffered cramps across his body too. A medical team who recently visited the detained journalist in hospital said that he refused to be treated or touched.
Mohammed Al-Qiq has entered his 84th day on hunger strike. 84 days of pain, hunger, and death. The detained journalist is currently in a very serious health condition. There must be a wide-scale popular movement and protest to match his pain and his battle against the administrative detention without trial or indictment.
On Monday, Al-Qiq refused an Israeli court's decision for his transfer to Al-Maqasid Hospital in East Jerusalem. His lawyer said that the court also rejected an appeal for his release. Al-Qiq was arrested without a charge. The 33-year-old journalist began an open hunger strike last November to protest his administrative detention under Israeli custody. Nevertheless, Al-Qiq is determined to continue his battle until he achieves freedom and justice. Roharazin Telesu TV. God.
Hundreds attended the National Museum in the Czech Republic to listen to a lost song composed by Mozart and his colleague Antonio Salieri. Now, the competition by Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart and Antonio Salieri was performed for the first time ever after a musicologist discovered the piece in the reserve collection of the museum. The concert marked a milestone in classical music history. And that's what we're covering on this Tuesday. Be sure to follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For teleSur's English, I'm Coddy Weddle. This has been From the South. We'll see you back here tomorrow.